Local 15's James Gordon has been there at Elberta Elementary School. James, you just listened to the same news conference that we had. What else are you hearing there?
Well, you know, we had a lot of questions leading into this because there was some information out there, like we said, misinformation that there were shots fired, and now we find out that there were no shots fired, but just those banging sounds that some of the employees and people thought may have been gunshots. So luckily that did not happen. And again, these children are safe. We're safe all along. There were no children in the cafeteria, as you may have just heard in the news conference. Now, one of the things I can tell you is that earlier in talking to parents who were on the outside looking in, they were kept at a distance along with some of the news reporters. Many of them were very, very worried and were very anxious. They wanted to get to see their children. And then when they got that notification, that rapid notification message on their phones, I was standing next to several of them when they got that. They were told that the children were accounted for and were safe, and of course you can see that sigh of relief, and of course that spread throughout the group that was there, and I'm sure all the parents who were waiting anxiously felt the same way. And then the process of getting the kids dismissed, that went smoothly as well. The buses were rerouted to the back of the school, and the parents were, those car riders like we talked about, were also rerouted to the back of the school, and the kids were sent home safely. Again, this school, like Mr. Owen mentioned in the news conference, is pre-K through third grade. So we're talking about the little ones, and the little ones many times don't understand exactly what's happening, but from what we're told, those doors were locked, as is procedure during a lockdown, so the entire time they were safe. And that's what was important here. And as we mentioned before, it looks like the procedures that they had been training for were also followed to the T. Let's go back to that news conference where we have some interviews, or sound like we call it, from the police chief here in Elberta, Chief Stanley Devane. And here's what he had to say.
We were notified that the suspect was trying to exit the rear of the school. Two Baldwin County Sheriff's officers, Assistant Chief Pelfrey and myself, made contact with the individual. She had a handgun in her hand. She was holding it down by her side. We ordered her to drop it. She dropped the weapon and she was taken into custody without any shots being fired or anyone being injured. Apparently, ongoing domestic, her and another family member, and she came to the school to confront her sister about whatever issue it was.
Again, like you heard the chief say, this was a domestic dispute, an ongoing domestic dispute between a cafeteria worker, an employee here at the school, and her sister. And her sister was allowed to go in the back door. We asked the superintendent and some of the officials here how that happened. They weren't able to give us the exact answer, but I guess you can only look at maybe this person had been here before because they were related and they knew that they were related, so they let her in. That's part of the investigation, and if someone has to be reprimanded or taken care of when it comes to a suspension, we'll probably find that out later this week as they look into exactly what happened. Here's what Mr. Owen had to say about today's incident as well.
We have rehearsals for things like this throughout all of our schools, and they immediately went through those procedures, and which include locking inside the classrooms or the closest available place for those that may not be. The cafeteria was free of students during this time, and we had a respondent immediately that took over. One of the custodians here made the initial call and was just reacted immediately, and the administration as well, and as you know, within just minutes we had police officers here.
Again, this is the first time this has happened as far as I can remember here in Baldwin County, and like all the officials and law enforcement have told us, their training went into full gear, high gear, and they were able to get this down to under control rapidly, and of course all that training really paid off today. For now, we're live in Elberta. James Gordon, Local 15 News.